Hi, I'm David Plazas, the Opinion and Engagement Director for the Tennessean. This is part of a series of videos that we're doing during the 2023 municipal election in Metro Nashville, Davidson County. Today I have the pleasure of having Jim Shulman, the incumbent Vice Mayor of Metro Nashville. Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, for people who aren't familiar, what is the role of the Vice Mayor and why do you want to continue doing this job?
So the Vice Mayor's prime responsibility is to run the City Council meetings. And we do those the first and third Tuesdays of the month, starting at 6:30. Now this past April we had 6 meetings, so sometimes we have more than 2. But that's the primary responsibility. I pick the committee chairs, pick the committees. I am supposed to just make sure that the whole thing operates like it's supposed to. I only vote in case of a tie. But I also have the other responsibilities of making sure that I kind of know what's going on within the city. I meet with the mayor once a week, and if something were to ever happen to the mayor, then I would become the mayor.
And this, we're recording this on May 11th, and this is the 60th anniversary of the founding, of the establishment of Metro Nashville-Davidson County with 40 council members. It's the 3rd largest council in America after New York and Chicago. How do you believe that you effectively wrangle and manage this group?
Well, so you do the best job you can. It's a very large city council. I think we're the 3rd largest. But this city voted 60 years ago to have 40 members and voted in 2015 to have 40 members. Now, obviously, we're in litigation with the state, but if that's what Nashville and Davidson County wants, then that's what we do. I think it's our responsibility to set up the government the way we want to. And so we're used to 40. And so you do the best job to make sure that you try to keep everybody in line so you can get through those long agendas. Now, I will say, one of the reasons that I'm running again is because I actually like that job. I like to try to get those things organized so that we can actually make better policy. It's an interesting time we live in, a lot of divisiveness, those things. I think that we can always do better, and I think by pushing professionalism and civility, we can be better for the city. So anyway, that's why I'm running again.
Now, you've been Vice Mayor since 2018, first in a special election, and you were elected outright for 4 years in 2019. That's right. Could you talk a little bit about the things that you're proudest of in your service as Vice Mayor?
I think the fact that we've been able to get through the last 4 years and our city seems to be doing well. I know there are issues out there, but obviously when I ran, I didn't see the tornadoes coming, the pandemic coming, the Christmas bombing. We've had all kinds of tragedies. The Covenant school shooting was horrible. But our job as elected officials is to keep the city going. And we've been through a lot over the last 4 years, and maybe the idea is that just getting through it was a good thing. I am proud of the fact that we delved into some things that maybe we hadn't really specifically looked at. The Vice Mayor does have the ability to pick special committees, and we did some of those. We had a very interesting one on 37208. And I think the idea is, even if the Vice Mayor can't bring legislation and only vote in case of ties, you can still help kind of direct where maybe some areas need to be looked at. And we've gotten through some tough issues, but again, the city seems to be doing pretty well.
And for those who don't know, 37208 is the zip code that has the highest level of per capita incarceration in the country.
That's right. And that was it was a story that showed up I think prior to the election last time, and it's like, well, that's something that we really need to deal with. There are things we need to deal with on a regular basis, and you want to talk issues. Obviously, school safety, number one. I know that we have a school board that deals with education policy, but it's an issue of protection of our kids is number one. But it also leads into discussion of issues like public safety overall. I know it seems like every night on the news we see somebody else has been shot or killed. we need to keep taking steps to try to figure out how to stop that. Public education, always an issue. Infrastructure, an issue. Affordability, an issue. Those things are going to happen in a big city, particularly a big city like Nashville that's growing so fast.
Now, you've had the opportunity to serve as a district council member, an at-large council member, and now vice mayor.
Mm-hmm.
For people who aren't as familiar, can you talk a little about the differences in the roles and how they work together?
Yeah, the district council member, we have 35 of those. They have a vote just like the at-larges, but they represent a particular district of about 20,000. And again, there were 35 of those. We have 5 at-large council members. They run citywide, countywide. They represent the entire body of Nashville and Davidson County. The vice mayor runs separately from the mayor. We're not on the same ticket. I'm not in his or her office. And so a lot of people think that the mayor can tell me what to do. They can certainly try, but they can't. It's a whole separate body. I run separately apart from the mayor, but it's also a city countywide election. So I represent the entire area. And so that's kind of the difference. Now, the district council members and the council members at large make up the 40. They all get 1 vote. I only vote in case of ties, and that doesn't happen very much.
You know, I think back to some of the monumental votes of the last 4 years, and you know, if you could talk a little bit about how you come to consensus or how you see people come to consensus. For example, the very difficult 34% property tax increase in 2020, or the new Titan Stadium deal that just happened a few weeks ago.
So I try to be really careful not to go direct people how to vote. That's up to them. They need to do their own internal research and make sure they understand kind of, you know, how they get to a certain area in terms of making a decision. But we do want people to come in and vote, and so what we try to do from a council standpoint, from the vice mayor standpoint and from the council office standpoint, is give them the information they need to be able to make that type of decision. So have plenty of meetings where they can come and ask lots of questions, have public hearings, have lots of ways that they can ask questions and get them answered. I think our job is to make sure, again, as the vice mayor, again, not trying to tell them how to vote, but trying to make sure that they feel comfortable with the information they're getting. We bring in the necessary folks to talk so that when we have like an issue like the stadium, when we have the property tax increase, people can vote with an understanding of why they're voting either for or against and feel comfortable in that decision.
You know, one of the things that sometimes is difficult, especially when I work with young people, is being able to accept defeat sometimes, because you're probably going to be on the side of a no vote at some point. How do you keep people engaged in government, especially when they feel like they're not winning at the time?
That's a great question. I mean, I've been on the other side of votes like that. And I think, you know, that, as long as you felt like you did the best you could and there was a reason why you voted the way you did, it used to be said that you had to go home and sleep with yourself at night, so you have to be able to feel like you did the best job you can. I will every so often pick up the phone if you see somebody really, disheartened or down about a particular vote. I might pick up the phone the next day and say, hey, you did good. You did fine. You did your research. Your arguments on the floor were really good. Those things happen. There'll be other votes, other decisions that you'll be involved in, some of which you may vote on the majority side, some of which you may not. But you ran for this, keep working at it.
And the council being the legislative body, those committees act as an oversight, and you have the authority to appoint those committee chairs.
Mm-hmm.
What is your philosophy when you think about how to assign a particular individual to lead, whether it's a parks or budget or a special East Bank committee? Yeah,
so you're looking for people who are interested in those topics. People who have the knowledge or the background or are willing to put the time in. We try to pass around the committee chairs as much as possible. The budget chair is the big one. That's what everybody wants because they actually get to help kind of see what happens as they're trying to pass that budget. We get it from the mayor's office, and then the council looks at it over a couple of months, and then hopefully we pass something. But the committee chairs actually run those committee meetings and get a report out what happens. What you're looking for is, again, to pass it around, but you're also looking for individuals that are interested in those particular areas. Because they can call department heads in, they can call in for special meetings, that type of thing. And they can actually look at areas that they are interested in, and they can get more information and become even more involved in the discussions on those topics.
One of the areas where you became a very public voice was in the relations between the city and the state. The Tennessee legislature had voted in numerous votes, most notably the halving of the council, which is currently in litigation, as I mentioned, and is under an injunction. How did you see your role in trying to do something about what was happening?
Well, so right now we have 39 members of the council. I guess we could have sent 39 members up there with all different opinions and try to figure out what happened. I know the mayor was working on it. I had spent many years working around and up on the Hill, so I knew some of the people involved. And I thought, you know what, I need to go find out what's going on. So I went up there, told the mayor's office I was going, and went up there with the idea of, let's see if we can get this worked out. And when I mean worked out, it means I don't want them passing a bill that's going to decrease the size of the council. That decision is, in my mind, should be left up to the voters of Nashville and Davidson County. This is our government. We have a metropolitan form of government. We voted for it in 1963. We approved it again in 2015. 40 members, that's what we've got. That's what we want. That's what we should have. The idea of saying, we the people, it's our government, we should decide, that decision unfortunately didn't resonate up there. Their argument was efficiency, it needs to be smaller, and so we tried. There were several of us, but I was one of them, and we were up there trying to figure out a way to, in a system where they have the votes, how do you get them to back off? And we tried different ways, and in the end, they passed the bill, and then we sued them, and now we've got an injunction. You know, we know they have the votes. I think as we go forward, we certainly want our government to run the way it's supposed to and not have to worry about every time we do something that somebody's going to be looking over our shoulder, telling us that we can't do it. Now, this is a big city we have out here that's growing very quickly. And we have to have the ability to grow with it and pass proper policies and proper legislation that helps the city grow, but also deals with affordability and protects people. And I think we have to be able to study those issues and feel like when we vote that we're voting in the best way we can, and that's going to be the decision because we are the people closest to the people that live here, and we need to make decisions based upon what they need.
Well, thank you. And on a lighter note, if you have a visitor coming in for a weekend here in Nashville, what do you tell them that they have to go see?
I tell them to go down Broadway and go walk around. I will usually send them to Centennial Park if that's what they want, or the farmers market. I will tell them to go get some hot chicken before they leave, or maybe a goo-goo cluster. And then I'll talk about, you know, typically some of the music venues and some of the sports venues as well. And tell them to get a kind of a flair or a kind of a piece of Nashville that they can take home with them. And hopefully that they have such a good time they'll come back. But there are so many different things you can do in this city and so many fun things. And so most of the time I will stop tourists. Particularly, you know, if you see them looking at a map or their phone, they're trying to figure out where they are. I will talk to them, engage them, tell them who I am. And then I'll ask them what they've done. Most of the time they spend a lot of time downtown. But if they're downtown, I'll direct them over to the Bicentennial Mall and the Farmers Market. But I'll also encourage them to, you know, go out to Centennial and go look at some other places. And with everything growing so fast, there's so many unique opportunities. Nolensville Road, Donaldson, Hermitage, Jolton, Bellevue. I'm naming them all, but I mean, there's so many different interesting places to go visit. But most of the tourists we get, I see downtown, and I kind of keep them in that area.
And if people want to learn more about you and your campaign, where should they go?
It's Shulman for Nashville.com. The 4 is spelled out, F-O-R, ShulmanForNashville.com. Or they're always welcome to call me. I usually give out my phone number. It's just Jim Shulman, and it's 615-584-1082.
Well, thank you very much, Vice Mayor Shulman. Again, if you want to keep up with the election, go to Tennessean.com. You can find out more about the debates that we're having for the mayoral election. Check out questionnaires coming soon. Remember, the deadline to register to vote is July 5th. Early voting starts on July 14th, and the election is August 3rd. Please be an active, engaged, and informed citizen. Thank you.
Thanks.